Hey, happy Monday to everybody. I'm Alan Thomas with Rethink Dieting, and this is my first post on my business page. I normally post in our group, men's group, Rethink Dieting for Men on Facebook, but over the last 14 days, I've been posting every day a live video just about weight loss and really just helping people get their head around what Rethink Dieting is all about. And give you guys a little history on my story. I don't tell you any of this to impress you, to impress upon you. A lot of you know me, but some of you that don't. On March 2nd, 2017, I stepped on the scales at 304 pounds, and I was 55 years old. It was the day after my 31st wedding anniversary, and my wife was asleep in the bedroom. I was in the master bedroom. It was just dark, and I looked and I saw that 304 pounds. I'm like, oh my God. I'd not seen that on the scale before, and it just freaked me out. I was working in the insurance industry, dealing with senior citizens at the time, and I couldn't remember ever meeting a man that was 5'11", over 300 pounds, that was 65 years old. Now I was 55, but what it spelled to me was I was going to be dead in 10 years or less. And so it messed with my mind. I realized not only was I going to be dead, I was going to be known as my wife's first husband. I married up like a lot of you men did. I would be known as her first husband. There would be somebody else calling there'd be, my kids would be calling somebody else dad at some point, and so it really hit me. And also realized that I hadn't done everything I wanted to do. And I don't know if you can resonate with this. If you're 30 years old watching this, it's probably hard to relate. But if you're over 40, you may be able to relate to this. And so my weight was holding me back. And a few days later, I committed publicly to losing 129 pounds in 260 days. I hit that. I actually committed to doing it in 265 days, but hit it in 260. And it really just changed everything. Last year, I've been doing business coaching along with my sales business, and had a man reach out to me who was struggling with his weight, and it was something that I never really wanted to do. I just didn't want to be that weight loss guy, but a lot of people I'd helped, and most of the people would ask me, they would say, Alan, why, what should I do? How'd you lose the weight? And I would tell them, I said, well, it's not your diet and exercise. And they say, well, what are you talking about? It's got to be that. Because they were looking for a quick fix. They were looking for a solution that would just be a Band-Aid for a gaping wound. And if you're somebody that struggles with obesity like I did, and I struggled with it for years and years, even before I was morbidly obese like I was at 304 pounds, I really, I'd struggled to the point where food just dominated my life, and it was really something that I know one of my clients, said that it was his cloak of invisibility, and I think that describes a lot of men, especially. So I say this to all you guys, not to impress you about it, because I'm not a doctor. I have no medical degree. I'm not a dietitian. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a physical fitness expert. Although I did just go on a run, so that's why I'm all dressed up for you guys. But I know the way through the woods of obesity, and I started helping men last year, and they got results. And what was so crazy about it was that they got results in areas that had nothing to do with weight loss, because their weight was holding them back. And you would say, well, how do you get results in those other areas? That didn't make any sense. Well, honestly, it didn't to me until I started thinking about it. So many men, and I'm sure this applies to ladies too, but especially men, when we're carrying an extra 50 or 100 pounds, we hesitate. We don't get that momentum in our life that we need, and it really impacted me, and I'm on a mission to help really 10,000 men in the next 3 years escape obesity. And my wife Angie, she came along for the ride too. She's not with me tonight on this, but she jumped in and lost 63 pounds in about 4 months. And we don't have a magic pill. I'm going to tell you, do you have to change what you eat? Of course you do. Do you have to change your exercise program? Of course you do. But at the end of the day, is it really a diet that solves your problem? Well, if that was the case, the $72 billion diet industry would probably have already solved it. physicians, I read something recently that over 20% of physicians are obese. So why is that? If knowledge was the answer, why is it not the solution? And so I don't say any of this to stir up hard feelings among people, but at the end of the day, I tell people all the time, and it's on my site. It says what I do is not a diet; it's a decision. And and I'm gonna leave you with this, and I'll be posting a lot more on this page because I'm not a techie. Angie and I had one of our good friends in Ireland that was so kind to show me. Said, "Oh, Alan, you need to be posting on your business page." I'm like, "How do you do that?" So anyway, I'm learning, but a few days ago, I was really wanting to understand the value of my program to people because I do work with men primarily. Angie's working with some ladies as well. And we're couples together that we're working with that are struggling with obesity. But I had one of my clients that I reached out to, and I said, "What difference has it made?" Now this individual is somebody who was he wanted to be powerful. I mean, when he hired me originally, his goal was not to just like get skinny. He wanted to walk into a room and people turn around, and not that he was some movie star, but the fact that he commanded the room, and he's literally doesn't even look like the same guy. He's not lost the kind of weight that you might think, but about 50 pounds a lot. But he's changed his whole process. And it was funny. I wrote down some things. I said, "What has it meant to you?" And I wasn't fishing for compliments. I just really wanted to know. I mean, if you want to know if you're getting results, ask people. And he said, it was interesting. First thing he led with is he's a better dad. What's that got to do with weight? He's got more, of course, energy, more discipline. That makes sense. Better life. Okay, I guess you could see that with weight, but power. That's what he wanted. He wanted power, and he feels strong. Confidence. Now that's a big one. I mean, that's the one that I hear men talk about all the time, and I can tell you story after story after story. The great blood work. He feels better. He looks better. That's all taken for granted. But this one, get this. This guy's an entrepreneur. He's got a business that's very, very successful. He has employees working for him, and so he's a leader. But he says better leader because he lost weight. How does that make any sense to you? And then he said body fat's the lowest since college, and this individual's in his 40s. His resting heart rate's really low, but all of that happened because he took action. And when we started working together, he said, "You got to tell people what to eat." And I said, "Why?" I said, "That's not the problem." And so I have a real unusual strategy that I work with people, but it does get results. And if people are coachable and if they're decisive, this is one thing I ask them when I'm talking to them, but they've got to have commitment. And I was thinking about this morning, the commitment that it takes to lose weight. If you struggle with weight your whole life, if you struggle with obesity, or even for 5 years, 10 years, it's so easy to drift, almost like you're drifting down in an undertow. We live about a mile from the beach here on Amelia Island, and it's like you could drift in the which you're 5 pounds, then you're 10, then you're 40, then you're 100 pounds, and then turning that around is not easy. It is very simple. It is very simple, but it takes some strategies that I learned for me. And what I do doesn't work for everybody. I tell people, well, I'm not for everybody, that's for sure. But when you think of commitment, if you're getting married and you go to the altar and you're exchanging your wedding vows with your future spouse, and when they say you remain faithful, and I can't remember all the vows. I've been married 34 years. It's been a long time. So, but to be faithful, what does that mean? Well, if you say, well, I'm going to be faithful about 99% of the time, it's probably a deal killer at the altar. So when you're dealing with obesity, when you're dealing with weight, it needs to be zero sum. And if you're not at your ideal weight, whatever that is, then you've got to be faithful to something 100%, just like you're faithful to a spouse. When you slip up, sure, there's forgiveness. People do slip, but you don't have to. There's this assumption that when you're going through a weight loss plan that you got to leave room for a cheat day. You got to do this. Well, okay, if that's what works for you, that's fine. If you're getting results with it, that's fine, no problem. But you don't have to. That's not true. You do not have to. And there's grace for it. There's grace for those times when you do slip and fall. It doesn't mean you can't get back up and move forward. But at the end of the day, if you want to have real lasting change, you've got to make some decisions that cut off any other possibility. I heard Tony Robbins say this, years ago. A decision, the root word of it means to cut off, to completely cut off any other possibility. So if you guys are ready to rethink dieting, if you're struggling and you'd like to have an honest conversation and really see that if my program is right for you, you can go to www.fat, the number 2, freedom, fattofreedom.com. www.fattofreedom.com, and that'll take you to a scheduling page. You can get a spot on my schedule. We'll book a 45-minute session. Answer a few questions for me so I understand a little bit about you before we get on the call, and we'll see if the program's right for you. There's more out there than the next bite of food. And if you're somebody that thinks you're going to outrun the fork, you're going to outrun the spoon, it's unlikely. Exercise is great. Just did 3.5 miles. Didn't run at all, but we ran, walk, training for a 10K. And I didn't run to get thin. I'm running now because I'm thinner. Does that make any sense? So you guys, everybody's got a different strategy. The one that you stick to and the one that you'll adhere to is the one that will work. But if I can help you, go to rethinkdieting.com. You can watch a 48-minute masterclass that I did. It's something I really am proud of. Gives you a chance to see a lot of the strategies that I used to go from 304 pounds to 175 pounds in 2017, and I did it all publicly. But if you really are struggling and you really feel like your weight is holding you back, you've got to take some kind of action, because you don't get but one shot at this. And I would encourage you guys to make a decision. Don't look for a diet. Make a decision. So you guys have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow night.